their voices, understand consent, and set boundaries. Her books, including I Said No and Body Safety for Young Children, are used worldwide in schools, child advocacy centers, and prevention programs. She brings a trauma-informed, family-centered lens to all collaborative efforts aimed at keeping children safe. Thank you for joining us, Kimberly.
Thank you.
Next, we welcome author Patrice Griffin. Patrice is a U.S. Army veteran, a survivor, an author, child safety advocate, model, and founder of Patrice's Kids Incorporated. Through advocacy, education, and community service, she has dedicated her life to protecting children and empowering survivors. She is the author of The Unconscious Community and My Body Safety Coloring Book. In recognition of her impact, the City of Houston proclaimed September 3rd as Patrice Griffin Day. Thank you for joining us, Patrice.
Thank you for having me.
And last but definitely not least, we welcome author Steve Simons. He is a CSA survivor, a tech CEO, a speaker, a preacher. He's the founder of Bloom Safe, a child advocate, and is the author of the children's book, My Body is for Myself, as well as the Bloom Safe Report and the Bloom Safe Make America the Safest Place to be a Kid Act. It is his belief that even in a world filled with AI, the future is human. But most of all, he loves connecting people using the written and spoken word. Thank you for joining us, Steve.
Thanks for having me.
Natalie Moon is our chat host. Natalie is the research specialist and partnerships coordinator with the Mama Bear Effect. She provides Rock the Talk trainings, builds partnerships with organizations across the country, presents at research conferences, and helped lead the Mama Bear Effect's first research project, which resulted in the published report, Parental and Caregiver Perspectives on Child Sexual Abuse Prevention. Natalie holds a master's degree in criminal justice, and her ultimate goal is to educate professionals and the public in order to encourage victim disclosure, challenge misconceptions, and promote offender accountability. Thank you for joining us and for hosting the chat, Natalie. I'm the panel moderator, Dr. Donna Bladowitz. Despite being sexually abused by my upper elementary teacher, I didn't let her squash my dreams. I became the teacher and the adult who would have protected little me. I have over 2 decades experience in education. I have created and provide safer schools trainings to help people in schools prevent sexual abuse. I am a researcher as well and am on the advisory board for the National Center to Stop Educator Sexual Abuse, Misconduct, and Exploitation, and am a former chair of the Charlotte Heck Award for Outstanding Fiction for Children. In this panel discussion, I will ask a question and each author will respond or pass as they wish. Natalie will host the chat and she will be in charge of 2 giveaways for this panel. At 2 points during the conversation, I will ask a question and the first person to respond with the correct answer in the chat will win the prize. There will be time for a short question and answer session after the panel. We are excited all of you could join us. For our first question, what inspired you to write your children's book? I will pass first to Adrienne.
Thanks so much for the question. So when I first published My Body is Special and Private, gosh, it was almost over 10 years ago now, or just about 10 years ago. It'll be 10 years next year. I had 2 young kids and I wanted to be able to introduce the concepts of body safety with them, but there weren't really books geared towards little kids. And so I made it my mission to find a way to create a board book that I could read to toddlers and that other people could offer to their children at that age group. Because especially when they're little, they love to tear pages and like really manhandle books. So it was really a labor of love for me to be able to publish this in a board book format and give people the opportunity to have this conversation with their kids at an early age that just opened up that conversation so they could talk to their kids about what it meant to have private parts and what it meant to, you know, to use the correct terminology, because so many people were not raised using the correct terminology. And so it was very taboo for them. And so I wanted it to just be an opportunity for them to just say those words, force them to say those words, and just get rid of the discomfort with it with their kids at a young age, so that it just kind of flowed naturally as they got older, and having, continued conversations with them on various topics.
Thank you,
So what-
Adrian. Pass to Diane.
So I never intended to write a children's book. I have an MFA in creative nonfiction, but as Donna mentioned, I'm a body safety educator in public schools, and the nonprofit that sends me in, their executive director just asked me one day, could you write a children's book, which in a non-threatening way teaches kids, shows kids what grooming is. And I was intimidated by the thought of like writing such a project, but a miracle happened. Basically a week after our like creative jam session, I woke up on a Saturday morning and the entire manuscript was like downloaded in my brain, and all I had to do was type it out and get it illustrated. So yeah, I wasn't inspired. I was voluntold.
Thank you, Diane. I will pass to Kimberly.
Hi. So I was inspired to write the I Said No book following what I would call a difficult sleepover that my son had. I had a brand new baby and a deployed husband, and I had to depend on my neighbors to watch my kids. And so while I was at the hospital with a sick baby, I got like a weird feeling, and I thought, well, it was probably just because I was tired and I just had a baby. So I, just kind of left it, talked myself out of what I was feeling. And this was before cell phones, mind you. So I went back and picked my son up the next day, and he ran right out to me and told me that he had a red flag with his friend. And so it was very triggering to me, brought back a lot of memories for me as a child as well. And I realized that because I had just talked a tiny bit about like what was safe and unsafe, and, if anybody touches your body, tell mom or tell dad or tell anybody. I realized that like he kind of created his own exit plan in this situation. He got himself to safety. And while I was trying to figure out like how to help him and looking for books, Adrian's book wasn't written yet, and there were no other books written yet about this. So there were literally no books that talked about like child to child sexual abuse. And so I went on a mission to write one.
Thank you, Kimberly. And I will pass to Patrice.
Hi. So I decided to write my body safety coloring book because I wanted children to basically have tools and the words to use to protect themselves. As a survivor, I know how important it is for children to understand boundaries, and just mainly to make sure that they know they have a voice. I wanted to take a very serious subject, such as child sexual abuse, and present it in a way that children can understand without frightening them. And it's a great activity for parents also to learn at the same time while coloring.
Thank you, Patrice. And I will pass to Steve.
I wrote My Body is for Myself because I think I grew up not really understanding that as a fact. And I feel like a lot of children, unless they're told explicitly that they have rights or personhood or value, can too easily miss that. And so I wrote My Body is for Myself to kind of convey a simple truth. I looked around in the body safety space, and I'm the newest author, I think, among all of us. But I didn't see any like rhyming, like Dr. Seuss-esque books, and I wanted to. I like using the spoken word, and I like using written word. So I wanted to write a book that was also good as a spoken word. And so I wrote a poetic or a rhyming children's book focused around My Body is for Myself, and kind of giving children the right to question situations that might seem completely ordinary. Like, do you want to sit on Santa's lap? That's a decision you have, and that's a choice you should be able to make, and nobody can tell you whether or not it's comfortable and right for you or not. So you make that decision. And so the book is full of examples like that are just everyday experiences that children hopefully will resonate with. And then I also wanted to write a book that would have a kind of a extended word for the adult reader, to get them started on learning more about the other resources, like the other books on this panel and other things that are out in the world available for parents, so that parents could learn that this isn't a taboo subject, that they can actually get involved as well.
Thank you, Steve. The next question for everyone is, how do you envision adults using your book to spark conversations with children? I will pass to Adrienne.
Yeah, so I mean, I have My Body is Special and Private, and really, that's geared towards just introducing the concepts with little kids about what it means to have private parts so that they can understand. Because obviously, when kids are little, they have no concept of privacy, and a lot of times they don't even like privacy. They want to, be naked a lot of the time. And so myself as a mom of 4, I dealt with that constantly. It gave me a lot of material to work with, obviously. But then my second book, Let's Talk About Secrets, I really wanted to use that to help parents engage in conversations with kids, to help them understand that some of the things that happen in their daily life can be confusing to them and sometimes used by people for the wrong thing. So secrets is really a big way that someone who wants to perpetrate abuse can groom a child to gain their trust, to kind of pull away from the bond with the parent. And so sometimes what happens in life is that someone who is a safe person does that without the intention of that. But in the same token, they're confusing that child because they don't realize what's happening. So I really wanted to address the issue of secrets, because I've learned, and I believe that the relationship that kids have with their parents and their protectors is one of the most important things in their life. And so the more that adults can talk to their kids and educate them and kind of walk that path with them, because inevitably there are things that are going to happen in life that are going to confuse them, or they're going to go, was this right? Or what should I have done in this situation? We don't want kids to do that alone. We want them to be able to come to us and for us to be prepared to help them navigate those situations. So, a lot of parents have said, I wouldn't have navigated that had I not had the education that I got, because of the resources that are available to me. And so we don't want parents to walk this path without that kind of support. I'll pass to Diane.
Okie doke. I'm going to start out with a pro tip. I think this might apply to everybody's books on the screen. I would always recommend that a parent or lover of kids, like a safe adult who cares about kids, read the book themselves first. Because there's nothing like reading a book and getting surprised by something you're not okay with. So that is step 1 with my book and everybody's children's book, especially on the topic of child safety, is you read the book. And then Amazon has my book slotted as 4 to 10. I personally would, I don't know that I would read it to someone who wasn't like kindergarten or above. And then I would just read the story and just maybe read it. And I'm not like a helicopter parent. I don't want to like freak kids out about child safety. So I would maybe read it 2 or 3 times a year and in like rotation with other child safety books. And then at some point your child is going to start talking back. And that's when at the back of my book, a mom and grade school teacher wrote extension activities, discussion questions, and I asked 2 activities be included, the making of a list of safe adults and the making of a personal safety plan or exit strategy. And so there's just additional activities that can cause conversation and questions to happen. And that's how I envision it, is first the reading of the story. And when the child starts engaging with the topic, then you start answering with the question or the answers that are right for your household and family.
Thank you, Diane. I pass it to Kimberly.
So I would recommend, I'm going to talk a little bit about how to use this book as a parent, but also as a teacher. The I Said No book and all of our books. So most states have Aaron's Law passed, and Aaron just created a free curriculum that anybody can download, which gives you all of the names of the books and even some lesson plans. So that I just want to share that with everybody because it's a really valuable research that many teachers don't even know exists. And there's nothing wrong with a parent downloading that either. I teach kindergarten. So at the beginning of the year, we start off talking about the rules of the classroom, which organically leads into the rules of body and body safety. And one of the things that I really try to focus on and that everybody can do in the very beginning of the year is talk about feelings. And I go into red flag feelings and green flag feelings. And one of the activities that you can do at home or at school is draw a picture in your journal of who are your green flag adults. Those are the safe adults who would never ask you to keep a secret, who always show up for you and would help you learn and maintain your body safety rules and never break any body safety rules. And now I'm also teaching kids, who are your green flag friends? And then some will ask, are there any red flag people in your life? And that's when sometimes I might get a little information from a friend at school. So that's just one easy way to introduce the I Said No book, but definitely check out the free resources.
Thank you, Kimberly. I will pass to Patrice.
Yeah, so I would definitely say that I've spoken to a lot of parents. I'm sure more than a dozen. And they basically told me, hey, Patrice, I'm not really sure how to have this conversation with my child because it's such a scary conversation. I don't want my child to feel scared or uncomfortable. So that's what made me come up with a coloring book. So I wanted parents to actually sit down, and go through the book with their child. The coloring activities gives them like a natural way to talk about things like, safe and unsafe touch, boundaries, secrets versus surprises, and identifying safe adults. Or my book, I call it Trusted Adults. So I guess instead of having one big uncomfortable conversation, parents can use different pages to start smaller conversations and keep them going. And again, to add coloring in there, because what kid doesn't like to color? I mean, adults love coloring too as well. So just give everyone an opportunity to sit down together. And, it's a family activity. It's something fun to do. It also comes with affirmation stickers. So, I mean, what kid doesn't love stickers? What adult doesn't love stickers? So I just try to make it fun for everyone.
Thank you, Patrice. I will pass to Steve.
I absolutely adore everything you just said. That's absolutely incredible. I think that for me, the thing that I think surprised me most in the research, and maybe other people have felt this way as well, is that when they've done surveys of predators, the number one thing that predators look for is children that are compliant, right? And so that could be a very obedient, very good kid, like have all the characteristics that parents usually want to train into and educate their children to behave like. And that's kind of the profile of someone who wants to please, who wants to be approved, who wants to be accepted. And so I think that what it takes for parents and teachers is to have a cultural shift in thinking of encouraging children to have autonomy and to have identity and to have their body safety rules that they know that they're going to be approved for and accepted for defending and protecting, and that when they have hard conversations, that it's not just that they can come to you, it's that they're not going to be in trouble for coming to you, and they're going to want to have that conversation, that you would be the person that they would choose to have that conversation with. And I think so it can't just be reading a book once a year or, picking one book and saying, this is our body safety book, and we read it once a year. It's got to be more of an embedded cultural feature of life, where it's something that you're coming back to, you're repeating it. It's ordinary. It's not extraordinary. It's not something, special and secret that we talk about once in a while, but then the rest of the time we don't. So trying to find a way to make it into the just ordinary course of conversation, that these are topics that we're comfortable talking about in our house and in our classroom, and that safe adults make it so that you're approved when you're getting the help you need. And so I think that my book was written more as like a starting point, a nice, warm, comfortable, place where there's nothing, scary or full of worry or fear or anxiety. It's just this is an ordinary part of life, and these are the decisions you have, and this is your body, and it was made for you. And so it was there for you to have a good experience. And if you're not having a good experience, then let's talk about it.
Thank you, Steve. Our next question, Kimberly already addressed this a bit, but this is for both Kimberly and Adrian, who have used books in schools, and we're going to ask them, what are some ways you can use body safety books in schools? I will pass to Adrian first.
I think obviously, talking to kids in school about body safety is really important. One, a lot of times they might not get this conversation at home. But two, if they do, it's only reinforcing what they're hearing at home, and it's just another touch point for them to realize this is something important. Three, a lot of inappropriate stuff happens at school. So it's really important for their safety that they have the opportunity to understand what's appropriate. So, a lot of schools will have, a body safety education class, especially in the states that have passed Aaron's Law and mandate that kids have access to this. But once a year is never going to be enough, and kids need multiple touch points of this information. So to be able to rotate a body safety book into the classroom is just another way to continue to reinforce the messaging for these kids. And I think especially, and something we don't really talk about enough, is kids who have developmental disabilities like autism or Down syndrome. Those kids need repetitive messaging. They are at increased risk of being sexually abused or just being exposed to inappropriate behaviors. And we're really doing a disservice to not expose these kids to regular messaging. So using books, simple messaging to these kids, and just folding it into something that's part of their normal daily experience, I think is essential to helping kids realize how important this is, because once a year is never going to be enough. Kimberly?
Agreed. So I'm about to start kindergarten again. And so what I always do on the first week, especially with young children, teaching them to understand consent. And I'm not talking about like sexual consent. I'm talking about like, you can hug me or you can use my toy. So a lot of the first and second week, we read books that are about sharing and asking permission, which has nothing to do with sex ed. A lot of times schools get hung up on that piece of what they think body safety is. So what I will do is I just wrote a book called I Said No to Hugs, which kind of models how a child can let adults know that they don't want to hug, let a friend know they don't want to hug, give them alternatives like an air hug, a fist bump, whatever, and teach and model that through the year at everyday moments. And one thing that sometimes I think body safety gets a little bit of a bad rap is sometimes people think it's not fun, but we make a thing called a consent chain where we take a little piece of construction paper and we make a big chain. Whenever somebody uses their voice and asks permission or consent to share or use or get a fist bump or whatever, I do like a positive reinforcement. And by the end of the year, we have a chain that's 1,000 deep down the hallway, and we turn it into a math lesson. So there are so many creative, fun ways to teach this in the early childhood setting that really help along the way with the conversations that Adrian was saying, like that we have to have ongoing. We've got to start early and make it fun.
Thank you both, Adrian and Kimberly. We are now up to our first giveaway, and our first giveaway is books from these amazing authors. And the person who responds with the correct answer first in the chat will win this. The question is, what date was named Patrice Griffin Day in Houston, Texas? And now we will go on to our next question for our authors, which is, what sets your book apart from other children's books on this topic? And I will pass to Adrian.
So what I've noticed with obviously my first book is that it's so far the only board book that I've seen for body safety. And I can tell you because it's a huge pain in the butt to publish a board book. It was oh my gosh, no one really prints them in the United States. So I've been through 3 different publishing companies. And when you do a board book, you have to inventory them. So it was a huge investment. I took a chance and I ordered like 1,000 books when we first printed it, like had no idea how it was going to go. And we sold out of them within like 2 months. So I was able to then reorder like 3,000, and now we're up to ordering them like 15,000 at a time. And thankfully, God's on my side, because my family business also is in the industry of inventory. So I have a warehouse in the city that might be able to keep them there. And then my husband shuttles back and forth and brings books so that we can be shipping them out. So yes, the board book is the one thing I think that really sets our book apart, which thankfully it continues to, support families. And so I'm really glad that we were able to do that, and that I took that chance and that it paid off. Diana.
Yeah, I'm going to talk to you later about this, Adrienne. I have a couple of ways in which my book, people have told me my book is different. I've been told it's the only book that goes through grooming as thoroughly as it does. And what's amazing to everyone, including me, is that I don't think it freaks kids out. It's very subtle. It's told like a fairy tale. So that's thing one. I had a woman who works with public broadcasting, who had been a middle school teacher and principal, tell me it fills a void in the canon for middle school because it's not using little cherub cute baby kids, baby illustrations. It's a little edgy. And I love that she said that. And then Donna is such a expert on children's literature. I had asked her, you tell me how The Brave Knight is different. And she goes, you know what? You use narrative. You told a story. You didn't say, do this, don't do that. Say this, don't say that. And so that was another way that she said I'm unique. And she also, Donna, you also told me that I'm the only book you know of that really addresses grooming thoroughly. So I am grateful for the people that showed me things about my book that I didn't know. I was just writing intuitively, if that makes sense. Like you write the book you need. The antagonist in the book was based on the person who harmed me. And so it ended up being the book that I would have needed, and that maybe other kids will find helpful as well.
Thank you, Adrienne and Diane, and I will pass to Kimberly.
Thank you. So what I've been told, and what I think the I Said No book, A Kid-to-Kid Guide to Keeping Private Parts Private, Why It's Different, is it's based on a true story, and it was co-written originally with my son, Jack, aka Zach. So there is literally some of his journal entries put into the book, and there's a bit of sass and a little bit of language that's kind of very kid friendly, and it is narrated by him. So when you're reading it, your child can feel like they almost can see themselves in it because the child is telling the story. Another thing that's different, especially now about it, is that it is clearly divided into like little mini chapters almost. So there are 2 pages on what your body rules are. Then there's, a page or 2 about, what's a treat, what's a bribe. Then there's what if scenarios where we go through a think, say, do model, because the research has shown, and if you're a teacher, that the more you encourage independent thinking on topics, the more likely a child is to retain that information and then be able to create their own scenarios if they find themselves in a situation. And then I guess one last thing would be that my book now includes a few scenarios about online safety and gaming safety and like what that looks like, which we all really need to talk about now, even for the 5-year-old. So.
Thank you, Kimberly. I will pass to Patrice.
Yeah, so my book is fairly new. It actually just came out in the beginning of July. But in my opinion, what I think sets my book apart from the others is that children aren't just reading and listening. You know, they're participating, they're coloring, they're answering questions, they're practicing boundaries. I'm very consistent in my book about practicing boundaries, being able to say no. Um, Identifying safe adults, or again in my book, trusted adults. And just learn what to say and what to do in different situations. I even have breathing techniques. It gives kids actual tools that they can remember and use, because I'm so consistent in my book. I repeat things over and over because kids have a short-term memory, right? You tell them something 5 minutes ago, they're like, what? So I'm very consistent in my book about telling them to say the word no and going to that trusted adult that the family in general knows about. I use like safe words. So I'm sure, a lot of other people use safe words, but I actually have them write the safe person in the book. I have them draw a picture of their safety person or trusted adult. So I just try to keep it more interactive. That way it's a fun activity and they're learning at the same time.
Thank you, Patrice. I will pass to Steve.
I was trying to think about this one, and I think the thing that is different is that my book has rhythm, and that rhythm is designed to have one takeaway. I always, like when I'm doing public speaking, I always think about the fact that an audience only ever remembers one thing, basically. So all the other words you say, they're going to miss it, but what's the one takeaway you want to take? And so I've kind of got a rhythmic cadence where I come back to my body is for myself, and then I'll go into something and come back to my body is for myself. So by the time you get to the end, you can hear the kids getting excited about, because they know when you get to that pause, and they're like, my body's for myself. And it's like, it's something they can get approval for and excitement about the fact that they know this thing that's true and that they can tell people and that you'll be right for saying. And and that carries within it so much of the other truth as well. Does this line up with your body being for yourself? No. And so I feel like it's an important lesson, and it's got that rhythmic cadence that makes it exciting for the kids.
Thank you, Steve. For our next question, for those of you who are survivors, if you would like to share, if this book had been around when you were a child, how would it have helped you? And I will pass to Adrienne.
Yeah, so when I was sexually abused, I was really young. I think maybe 5 or 6 years old. I really don't really remember when it started. So when I look back at it, I feel like if I had been read my second book when I was, maybe first or second grade, I don't think I would have told. I really think I would have already had so much shame about what had happened that I feel like I probably would have shut down more. But if I had had that messaging when I was younger, if that board book had been read to me, because my mother did teach me the proper names for genitals, but she didn't really teach me the rules about them. And so I feel like I would have had more an understanding of what the boundaries were. And so looking back, that's how I feel it would have benefited me if I had really had that messaging really early. And that's what makes me kind of sad sometimes when people say like they don't want to scare their kids, like Diana said, and I think we all kind of know this. It's really not scary to kids. It's more scary to adults because they understand the full breadth of what the implications are for a child being sexually abused, but a child doesn't necessarily understand it that way. I mean, the younger they are, the less they really understand the weight of it. But in the same token, because of their innocence, we need to kind of do that much more to protect them and empower them. So it definitely, it's one of those hurdles that we need to come over to help parents understand that this isn't something that's going to scare your child. Especially in, the data showing that more recently sexual abuse is being perpetrated by more children, not less, because of the exposure of the internet and pornography and things like that. So we not only have to protect our kids from potentially being sexually abused, we also have to do our part to raise kids that are not going to perpetrate sexual abuse against other children. So I really see it as part of a loving conversation. We're guiding children through life. Life isn't easy. It's messy. We're adults and we can do hard things. So yeah, I really hope that had, that book been read to me when I was a little kid, that hopefully I would have had a better understanding that this isn't something that should have been happening to me. Diana?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I'm a body safety educator in schools. And every time I stand in a cafeteria or a gym or an auditorium in front of 100 of middle schoolers or high schoolers, every single time I say, if I'd had this experience, I would have run up to the speaker as soon as they were finished and disclosed, because there was no one in my life that I felt safe talking to. I didn't even tell my best friend because I knew, like Adrienne was talking about, I knew it was not okay. I don't know that I felt shame. I felt shame. I knew that the person was bad and I was not. And I'm so thankful that I always knew that. It's like my superpower is not feeling shame. I just give it right back, like Giselle Pellicote says. I just give it back to the person who did the bad thing. But if I had the book, I would have recognized, and this is a little bit of a spoiler for the book, I would have recognized I have a dragon in my life. That would have been the first thing. I would have recognized this person is doing all the things that the villain in the book is doing. And then the book tells you how to use your voice. Your voice is your superpower. And then I would have been able to do it. But for so many kids, I always tell people that parents build the worldview. And so in a school, I may be the first person to tell a child, no one should look at, touch, or take pictures of your bathing suit body parts. If they're not hearing it at home, if they hear it in a book, if they hear it at a body safety assembly, or if their teacher just teaches an important lesson, then it could just be the thing that saves a child or makes them disclose after the first time and not like the 100th time. But yes, it would have helped for sure. Any of these books would.
Thank you, Diane, and thank you, Adrienne. I will pass to Kimberly.
So I think all of these books are really amazing resources. And I was a victim from a female babysitter when I was 5, but I ended up telling right away before anything got too serious. Somehow my mother had taught us this basic lesson that is probably what I repeated to my kids now that I'm thinking of it. But like it stuck, that nobody should touch you, nobody, all of that. And also we had a cousin babysit us as well, a male cousin. So just learning about all of the risk factors, and if my mother and my father would have known that it's not a good idea to have a 13-year-old babysitter watch a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and it's not a good idea to have a 14-year-old cousin be your babysitter either. Those are just risky choices. So I think the Body Safety for Young Children book that I wrote for parents, like if my mom would have had that book, that would have changed the whole trajectory of my life, including that my parents never talked about like anatomy, sex education, alcohol, drinking. I went to college completely unprepared. So it's like so much that parents can learn, teachers, caring adults can learn from all of these resources.
Thank you so much, Kimberly. I will pass to Patrice.
Yeah, so I think this is a really, really good question. Because as I sat down and I decided to write this coloring book, I thought to myself, like, would this have been helpful for me? And I want to say possibly. And the reason why I say possibly is because you have to have, and I'm being honest here, you have to have a safe adult in your life that you can trust to go to, right? You have to have that mom, that dad, that aunt, uncle, cousin, whatever safe adult that you completely trust, and you have to be able to trust them as well to give that information. So I think it's so important for, parents, caregivers, teachers to make children feel like they have a special place or a safe space to tell them if something's bothering them, whether it be bullying or anything. I didn't have that, and I was being sexually abused from the age of 8. Started with my cousin, well into almost my adulthood. So this one is very, very personal for me. I believe if I did have that person that I could trust. It would have given me something that I didn't have, the language to understand what was happening to me, and the confidence, I guess, to speak up. I didn't have confidence. I had very low self-esteem. I didn't understand what was happening to me, so I didn't speak up. And it went on for years and years and years. I think what if I, if I had known that what was happening wasn't okay, and that I had a right to say no, because I never said no, because I didn't think I had a right to. I didn't know that I had, what's the word? I didn't know I had the option to say no. It kind of just kept continuing until I got older and understood. And that, I would have had, someone tell me, Patrice, keep telling someone until someone listens to you and shows you the respect that you deserve and says, hey, I'm here for you. I got your back, tell me what happened. You can trust me to tell you and I will believe you. And I think that's so important. So we can have all the tools and everything, to teach kids at whatever age. But I think that if we don't teach our children or loved ones, hey, you can trust me, and really show them that you can be trusted, then I think it makes it difficult all around.
Absolutely. Thank you, Patrice. I will pass to Steve.
I hope so. I don't know. I think it's important for it to be said. I know we all agree and we all know it, but just to have it said out loud was that children can't be expected to protect themselves. They're in a position or with the power, authority, or knowledge or capability of defending themselves. And just because you read a body safety book to a child does not mean that you've done your job and you can walk away and assume that the child is able to protect themselves, defend themselves. We need to create safe cultures and safe families and safe schools and safe youth serving organizations and safe churches and safe, communities where the adults are intentionally collaborating with each other in order to provide a safe environment. And certainly getting educated is the first part of that. And I think there's so many things that surprise people. Like over 90% of all perpetrators are known to the child at the time of abuse. And just basic knowledge that goes against the old stranger danger safety methods that people have been teaching since the 70s. That if we're going to protect children, we need to know the current information, the current research. And there's a lot of great research going on, peer-reviewed scientific, studies. We put some into the afterward material in my book in hopes to reach the adult readers. So I don't know that it would have necessarily caused me. I'm a defender by nature, and I'm also really slow. The average age for disclosure for men is 50, and I came in a little bit fast. I was in my 40s when I first told the first person, which was my wife. But like it's. I like to say I'm a survivor because I have one speed. It's slow, but it keeps moving. And and the motto of my life is "This will not defeat me." And so I keep on trucking, and I'm hoping that it provides a conversation starter, or it spawns the interest on the part of the adults to take this out of the taboo column and move it into the I'm comfortable with this, and I'm ready to defend the children in my life, and so I'm willing to have the hard conversations and learn the actual facts and use that information to advocate for safer schools and for safer play spaces and safer childcare circumstances and all the rest of it. And that's why I founded Bloom Safe, was in hopes of kind of getting adults to take ownership of the problem and drive. So while I certainly think I've created a warm, welcoming, cozy, comfy, book and a safe place to have, those initial conversations, I'm hoping that the afterward has the effect to kind of wake up the adult readers to say, this is something that I can know about, understand about, and do something about.
Thank you, Steve. It is time for our second giveaway, and I need to give a little background on this first. As the U.S. Department of Education's Dear Colleague letter on July 10th pointed out, sexual abuse in schools is an epidemic. Surveys show that between 11% and 17% of young adults report being sexually victimized by educators. Those who may not recognize it was sexual abuse. This doesn't even get into those who were sexually abused by peers. In schools, this is truly an epidemic. And Dr. Cheryl Shakeshaft found that in 70% of reported cases of educator sexual abuse, it was due to opportunity. So if you remove the opportunity, you get to protect children much better. So I am giving away one of my Safer Schools consultations, where I will work with school administrators to examine what they're doing well in preventing sexual abuse by adults or children and help them find areas for improvement. They will get an action plan that we will develop collaboratively with specific steps that they can take to better protect the children in the school. So that is our second giveaway. And the question that's the person who wins this giveaway needs to answer correctly in the chat. First person to answer correctly in the chat is, which author is also a kindergarten teacher? And our next question and last final question for all our authors is, what do you love most about your book? And I will pass to Adrienne.
What I'd say, I mean, my first book is a board book, and I obviously love that it's in the board book format, which also meant that when people asked for Spanish, I then had to publish it again as a board book in Spanish. So I have a lot of books in inventory. What I love about my second book is that we were able to find an amazing supporter in Mexico who translated it into Spanish for us so that we could have English and Spanish on the same page. So there's so many bilingual families out there, or families that don't have English as the first language for the parents. So to be able to offer a book, because we work with a lot of school systems and therapists, child advocacy centers, and they're always saying, what do you have for bilingual resources? What do you have in Spanish? We don't have resources. We don't have enough resources in Spanish. So I was really blessed, and it was a lot of work, because going back and forth to make sure that the translation was correct, because that book also has a parent guide on the back with lots of questions and answers. So I'm really grateful for the support of our dear friend who volunteered her time and took months with us to translate it and make sure that it was done well. I'm really glad that we were able to do an English-Spanish book all in one, so we could address that population and make sure that we continue to have resources for them.
Thank you, Adrienne. I'll pass to Diane.
I love my story. I love my illustrations, but the book was shown to a different nonprofit executive director, and like before it had even been printed or the illustrations finished, just based on the manuscript, she said, I will buy 7,000 copies of this so that my nonprofit can give a copy to every single foster child in our state, because foster children are at least 4 times more likely to be sexually abused as kids in traditional homes. And then foster children who are in group homes are over 20 times more at risk for child sexual abuse. So I'm just so proud. I'm just so proud of that every foster child has a copy of my book, and that they know the principles of recognizing abuse and using your voice. So that's what I'm proud of.
Thank you, Diane. I will pass to Kimberly.
Thank you. Well, I think for the I Said No book, I'm extremely proud of the fact that I have a new publisher, Marble Press, who actually listened to me and helped me really get the book more organized, more kind of strategic, and just like gives more of a powerful punch for parents so that they can use all of the strategies they need. We also added the body part names, which was missing in the 2020 edition. And I love too that this publisher has a resource page for my book specifically with all of these fun downloadable lessons. I think there's like a packet on Marble Press. If you hit resources, you can just download away all sorts of great resources, not just my book, but other ones as well. And then I'm really proud of the Body Safety for Young Children and Empowering Adults, Caring Adults book, because really I always wish I would have written that book first, because at the end of the day, like we all have said, you know, it is an adult responsibility for us to learn about body safety, learn about grooming, learn all the prevention strategies, and make really safe choices for our kids. And I just wish I would have written that one first, but life didn't go that way. It is in existence now, and I'm so thrilled at the way it came out and the way that it is so teacher friendly and parent friendly and very usable. So I'm just so happy that I have two really great resources available.
Thank you, Kimberly. I will pass to Patrice.
Yeah, so the first thing I want to say is Adrian actually inspired me to write a children's book because I had read a couple of her books and I was just like, man, I have to do something, similar, but I guess put my own little twist on it. So thank you, Adrian, for that. And also, she put her books in Spanish. So that was another thing that I wanted to do. So my book, my body safety coloring book, will be coming out in September in the Spanish version. So shout out to you, Adrian, for a great idea. But what I love most about my book is it gives, like I was saying before, I didn't have a voice. So it gives children a voice. It's colorful, it's interactive. But behind every activity is something that, could help a child recognize an unsafe situation or feel comfortable speaking up. If this book helps even one child, then I feel like I've totally done my job. I would love to expand it, put it in schools, daycares, pediatric offices, things of that nature, whatever it'll take to, advance the message. From all the amazing authors that we have on this panel in completely different ways, but it comes full circle to what the message is there's nothing more important than the love and protection of each and every child.
Thank you, Patrice. I will pass to Steve. Steve,
Steve.
unmute. Steve.
Yep,
Okay.
got it. Sorry. I think the thing I love the most about my book is that it put me into a company of heroes, such as all the people on this panel. And so many people helped and contributed and read and edited and counseled me on it and gave me encouragement along the way, and it took over 2 years to bring it out. And I love the illustrations. And there's an Easter egg in my book. I don't know if you can see this because the fancy screens, but there's an Easter egg, which is the secret on the back cover, which is you can look for this guy anywhere throughout the book. Oops. And that's me. So, anyway, I love the illustrations. I love the story. I love the opportunity to hopefully help other parents and teachers create safe spaces for the kids they love and care for every day. And I'm hopeful that like Tree said, if I can reach one kid and protect one kid, I'll feel like I had a life worth living.
Thank you, Steve. And before we move on to questions from the audience for the participants, I want to thank all of you inspiring authors and panelists. Oh my goodness. You are just absolutely incredible. And you are making a difference for so many kids. I wanted to also say congratulations to the winners of the giveaways. All of you who watched this tonight, please consider visiting the websites for these authors and ordering books. We will be emailing people after this with 3 action steps you can take and QR codes to order books and links to the recording. And now, if you have questions for the authors, you may stay on and ask them. So Natalie, do we have questions? Any questions in the chat?
I am addressing one now. I'm about to put everybody's email addresses into the chat really quick. Somebody had a question about that. But yeah, this is a time for everybody in the Q&A to ask any questions that they had about the books and how they can use books as a teacher or an educator or even, a medical professional. How can you use these books to talk about these topics with children? So we'll give everybody a second to think and put it in the chat. And if not, I'm happy to end on one more question that I can come up with. But I would love to hear from anybody who is on the call today.
Yeah, I think I would just say too that everyone that's participating and watching, that you as an individual have an amazing opportunity to be an advocate in your community. So just like Natalie was saying, like, you can go to your local library and ask them what kind of body safety books they have and recommend books to them. You can go to your doctor's office and say, do you have body safety books that you make available for parents to read? Just when we ask questions and be curious and engage the people who should be involved with body safety, like talk to, if your child, you're signing your child up for kindergarten, they're starting their new school year or preschool, ask them what kind of training they do for their staff or what kind of education they do. When we were preparing for this webinar, I was saying to them, how many times do teachers have issues with kids sharing these communal bathrooms because they're not used to it? And it's a very novel thing. So they kind of think it's funny to open the door on their friend or put their head under. And it's so important to teach kids like what's appropriate behavior when you're heading into school. So, for us as parents, supporting parents, the conversations we need to be having with our kids and checking in with them, after school sometimes. Did anything inappropriate happen today? Did anybody do anything that made you feel uncomfortable or not respected? Just like Kimberly was talking about, like sharing toys or pencils and things like that. One of the things I learned that I'll never forget is they said that young kids view as an extension of their bodies. So when you force a child to share something that's really their personal property, it's like you're saying to them, you don't get to have a chance to say yes or no about things that pertain to you. So I think that was a really, that's a really important message to send to kids. It's not specific to sexual abuse, but it leads into other conversations about consent and respect and things like that. So I just wanted to toss that out there to everybody that you can be a voice for this cause in a very easy, down-to-earth way.
Thank you for sharing that, Adrian. I do love those tips. We did have a question in the chat. Somebody said that they do body safety story times in public libraries, which I think is so incredible. They did indicate that they've been struggling with people attending these. What might you recommend to bring more interest around this topic or just get those who need it most in the room? Again, thank you for this panel and the work that you do. So anyone here on this panel, do you have any thoughts about how we can get more interest in attending this topic? Like at a library or an event, something like that.
I can suggest something. At our library here, what we do is have body safety bags that go home with anybody who comes to one of our little body safety chats. So our library has about 15 bags in little Ziplocs with handles, and it has the I Said No book and like 1 or 2 other books and some worksheets, and they can check it out and take it home. So that's really appealing. And then also another thing that we've been doing, because sometimes, the story time parents are like a little iffy still about the body safety. So we bring it into a different kind of avenue where we'll say, like, we're going to be talking about social emotional awareness and developing boundaries. That seems to get people in quicker. And there are also some great books on that, like Don't Hug Doug. I don't know if any of you have read that one. There's some really charming books on that topic. So that has worked for us.
I would say too, Natalie and I were in Texas earlier this year and they turned it into a tea party. Oh, yeah. So it was like the parents were with the kids, and then we talked about, this one was for older girls, but we had conversations about, what it's like to be a preteen and things like that. So that was really cool. But I think food tends to get people to come, even when we've done events for our organization. If there's food, and make it something a little bit more fun for the family, so it's more like an activity. Yeah, that's how we've had success.
My local child advocacy center did an event with me, and they had a Kona ice truck. Do y'all have Kona ice? Like the ice, yeah, the snow cones. So that was fun. I was at a writers conference, and the owner of a bookstore was saying Thursday night is the best night for book events. So you might try changing the night that you offer it on. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Those are incredible. I love Kona ice. I think, yeah, just thinking about what would make it hard for someone to come, what would make it hard for a single parent to come, what would make it hard for a working parent to come. So just thinking about that and trying to eliminate some of those factors. Easier said than done, but, and there is power to making things virtual. Maybe you could have a virtual option in addition to physical coming. So
I think
And
it's-
and Diana, when you say that too, sorry, Steve, sometimes they'll do a pajama book reading. So like you say Thursday night, have kids come in their pajamas, they're all ready for bed, and they read the books and then they can go home and put them to sleep.
That would be adorable.
That's a cute idea.
Kimberly, didn't you say the CAC does this in Connecticut and it's wildly popular?
They do a lot of different things here in Connecticut at the various libraries, and everybody seems to now have a body safety shelf in their library, which I love. So one thing, if you're at a library and you don't have a body safety shelf, that could be something you could develop. And one thing that I think a lot of people don't know, maybe librarians would know this, but you can contact the publisher direct and you can get a steal of a deal on bulk orders. So maybe it would be something like you would apply for a grant and give some books away for people that came too.
That's really cool. I did
And I
not
would
know.
say there's two primary objections people have that you need to overcome. And I think oftentimes we fail on it because we just don't see it this way. One is the number of parents who just don't think their children are at risk. Right? They're like, oh, I live in a safe community. I go to a good school. My kids go to private school, maybe, or whatever it is. I'm not at risk of this. And the other one is that they are either uncomfortable, afraid, or believe they disagree with whatever it is that they will learn there. And so disambiguating what it is and like educating in like when you say any of the keywords around this, somebody's going to take it and say, well, they mean something that I really don't want or don't agree with or don't believe in or whatever it is. And so making it ordinary, making it mundane, making it easy to grasp what's going to be covered, what's going to be talked about. And so they come in knowing and being able to choose it. And then also, at the same time, communicating that everybody's at risk. Every neighborhood, every street, every family. It's not a measure of how good you are as a parent or how bad you are as a parent. It's everybody, is at risk. And so we as a community want to create a safer community, want to create a safer space for the people we love.
Thank you for bringing that up, Steve. People would have thought I would not have been at risk as a child because my dad was one of the two people who helped start the sexual abuse task force in our county. And he and his friend went around our state teaching about that. My brother and I knew what sexual abuse was, but we didn't know that it could be a teacher. And I did not know it could be a woman. So those are things that people need to mention, that any gender can abuse any gender. Or if you present the same story, the same images over and over, children might think it's only men, it's only strangers, it's only this, it's only that, it's only adults. And so they don't know what this other child is doing to them. But yes, any child can be at risk.
One idea I had was we're coming up on Halloween and we've got trunk or treating and trick or treating opportunities. So I will speak just for the Mama Bear Effect and other authors can chime in, but feel free to reach out to us if you want to talk about passing out materials, whether that's free, our coloring sheets on our website or anything like that. So just think about those simple ways that you can pass out body safety educational resources and feel free to reach out to any of us and we can discuss ideas for Halloween and things like that.
And if you want to get involved on the national stage, quick shameless plug for Bloom Safe, you can check out. There's a bill we're trying to get sponsored in Congress. You can go to bloomsafe.org and read all about it. There's materials on there. If it's something that you want to advocate for in your state or in your community, there's educational materials there, and obviously everybody on the panel is also great resources, and really the websites for every author on this panel has really great materials available to it. So you're not lacking in resources. Definitely go look at the Mom Bear Effect and look at Tough Topics Mom and look at Diane and Patrice's sites. There's really great materials. We aren't lacking at this point in history for good materials. They are available if you know where to look.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
If you have school-aged kids, I would recommend that you call their schools and ask them if your child is going to see a body safety assembly. Because even though Aaron's law is passed in 38 states, some schools and school systems are dragging their feet, or they'll just send a flyer home with the child, or they'll like have the homeroom teacher cover the topic. And you just don't know if it's age appropriate, if it's professionally presented. Yeah, I would want to know, yeah, when is my child going to see a body safety assembly, so that you know it's happening. It would be ideal if you know when, so that if your kid comes home with a lot of questions, you can be ready for that. But I always tell parents to put the pressure on the schools, because they're mandated by law to provide it to the kids. So
Thank
my
you,
opinion.
Diane. And building on what Diane said, also ask your schools what policies and procedures they have in place to prevent sexual abuse by adults and children at the school. Natalie, do we have any other questions in the chat?
I'm not seeing anything else. So I put everybody's emails in the chat a couple of times. So everybody feel free to go copy and paste those and email any of us if you have any further questions or thoughts.
Thank you so much. Anything else our panelists would like to add?
Look at what Caroline said. I love it so much. Carolina. Yeah. Best ideas she's heard in 2 years. Yeah.
Anything else anyone would want to say before we close? Okay, thank you so much.
Definitely, I wanted to say to all the adults in the room, definitely, since we've had this webinar this evening, so I want you to take the information without fear. Take it as I've learned something that I can use every single day to protect my child. Excuse me. You have several books here from many different amazing authors, also in different languages. So take that information, move forward. Do what you must do to protect your child how you see fit, but educate yourself and make sure that you educate your child in a loving way so they know they can depend on you when they need you the most.
Thank you so much, Patrice. And thank you everyone who joined us, and to all of our amazing authors and our chat host, Natalie.